documents reveal that Atlanta police believe a shooting that resulted in the deaths of 2 teens happened because of a Lil Baby music video.
In fact, we have confirmed after looking over arrest warrants for the 7 people implicated in this deadly shooting that one of the people they're looking at is Atlanta-based rapper Lil Baby.
Yeah, that's right. In a statement, Lil Baby's lawyers say Atlanta police even referencing the rapper in connection to this deadly shooting was complete and total nonsense, though the warrant says otherwise.
By now, pretty much everyone has heard about Lil Baby's shady dealings, but nobody expected things to be this crazy.
Cowardly acts of an Atlanta-based rapper that decided to go over into a rival gang stronghold and shoot a music video in a place that he knew he should not have been.
Between the bullets, it was nothing but bullets, pop, 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 pop.
Just a few days ago, his name started making the rounds again, this time for all the wrong reasons. Turns out, he was named in a warrant linked to a deadly shooting that took the lives of 2 teenagers, Jacody Davis and Lamont Freeman, last year at the Oakland City West End apartment. And if that wasn't tragic enough, Layman was reportedly celebrating his 13th birthday when he was killed. Another kid, just 11 years old, also got caught in the crossfire and was seriously injured.
On July 2nd, a shooting at the Oakland City West End apartments claimed the life of 13-year-old best friends Jacody Davis and Lamont Freeman. The pair were gathered to celebrate Freeman's birthday.
Atlanta Police Major Ralph Woolfolk didn't mince words, calling it part of a gang war and saying, Lamont Freeman was allowed to be a 13-year-old for 27 minutes before gang violence ultimately took his life.
Lamont Freeman was allowed to be a 13-year-old for 27 minutes before gang violence ultimately took his life.
For a while, the investigation kept hitting dead ends, but things took a turn when the FBI and Atlanta police started wiretapping phone calls from an inmate, Keontae Midnight Sanders, who apparently had ties to some of the shooters.
Well, Ron, they say that a wiretap between a man sitting behind bars and some of the suspects is one of the things that tipped them off to all of the people they've arrested so far.
That opened up a whole new trail of leads, and once law enforcement had enough evidence, they wasted no time filing warrants and making arrests. According to the warrant, this whole thing allegedly kicked off when Lil Baby and his crew decided to shoot a music video in a rival gang's territory. A move that, given the long-standing tension between 4PF, his crew, and OMF, was basically asking for trouble.
Cowardly acts of an Atlanta-based rapper that decided to go over into a rival gang stronghold and shoot a music video in a place that he knew he should not have been.
So the shooting wasn't just some random act of violence, it was supposedly tied to the ongoing beef that had been simmering for years.
They also shared that the plot for this deadly shooting runs deep. In fact, we have confirmed after looking over arrest warrants for the 7 people implicated in this deadly shooting that one of the people they're looking at is Lil Baby.
Now, for those who do not know, this feud runs deep. Word is, it dates back to 2021 when a 4PF affiliate, Marcus Big Mark Holland, was shot and killed. After that, it was all about revenge. In 2024, an OMF member, Trevante Turner, was gunned down, and his cousin, none other than Keontae Midnight Sanders, decided it was time to strike back at 4PF, even while incarcerated. That retaliation allegedly led to the tragic deaths of those 2 teenagers. So far, 7 people have been tied to the shooting, with 2, Ollie Caldwell and Traden Crawford, recently arrested, adding to 5 others already in custody.
In all, 7 people have been arrested, but 2 men, Ollie Caldwell and Traden Crawford, were just arrested.
After the warrants were made public, Lil Baby tried to clear his name. His attorney, Drew Findling, went off on the police department, calling the allegations complete nonsense.
Yeah, that's right. In a statement, Lil Baby's lawyers say Atlanta police even referencing the rapper in connection to this deadly shooting was complete and total nonsense.
In his statement, he said, bringing his name into a conversation about a horrific crime he had absolutely no involvement in is unprofessional, unethical, and shameful. His team is doubling down, claiming that the teens who were killed were actually from Lil Baby's own neighborhood, directly contradicting the warrant's claim that this was all about the 4PF-OMF feud. And honestly, if you take a step back and look at Lil Baby's past, it kinda makes you wonder, is this just another case of authorities trying to pin something on him? Or is there more to the story? Whatever this is, we have to dive deeper to find out. Lil Baby's first brush with the law went down when he was just 12, and honestly, it all started with what probably felt like a genius idea at the time. breaking into a house with some of his friends right in their own Atlanta neighborhood. They thought they had it all figured out, but before they could even make a move, the cops pulled up out of nowhere and shut down their little operation before it even began. It didn't take long for the officers to piece things together, and after a few questions, they realized exactly what these kids were up to, so they wasted no time slapping cuffs on all of them and booking them for attempted burglary. Since Lil Baby was still just a kid, he couldn't be thrown into county jail like an adult, so instead they sent him to a juvenile detention center for about 10 days. You'd think that might have been a wake-up call, but if anything, it just made him more careful. Before that arrest, only his closest friends knew about the stuff he was getting into, but once he got caught, his entire family, his mom included, was well aware of his not-so-secret double life.
My whole life was illegal at one point in time. The I'm doing, and I always been on a hit hard, move silent road.
Still, that didn't stop him. Even though he was fully wrapped up in street life, he somehow managed to keep up with school, and according to him, he was actually pretty smart. He was passing his classes and on track to graduate. But between all the suspensions stacking up, it was only a matter of time before he got expelled. He thought about transferring to an alternative school, but once he realized he was technically too old for it, he just called it quits. And with that, school was officially out, and the streets became his full-time hustle.
My sister them graduated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is just like kind of like the life I chose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To not graduate, to be in the streets. And we stayed in the same house, in the same neighborhood.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Now that he had all this free time on his hands, trouble just seemed to find him over and over again. Between ages 16 and 17, he kept getting arrested, though most of those records are sealed since he was still a minor. But if you ask him, it was all for the usual. Guns, harmful substance, and everything that came with that lifestyle. Somehow, every single time he got locked up, he managed to slide by with little to no real consequences until one day a judge finally had enough and hit him with probation. For a while, he actually tried to stay out of trouble, but by the time he turned 18, he slipped up again, violated probation, and ended up right back behind bars. This time, things were serious. He was facing real prison time.
Kind of like the worst prisons you can go to. So by me being able to do that at 17, 18, 19, that formed me for the world. Like I always say, like I thank God for everything.
So he knew he had to act fast. His first lawyer worked out a deal for 2 years in prison, but Lil Baby wasn't feeling that at all. So he fired the guy and got himself a new lawyer, who somehow managed to get him a much better deal, a 6-month program instead of prison. That sounded like a win, so he took it. But when he finally got there, he realized he'd been played. The program was actually a full year, not 6 months like he was told. Still, he tried to tough it out, but that didn't last long because just a few days in, he got into a fight with another guy. And just like that, he was kicked out and sent back to serve the original 2-year sentence. Prison, however, wasn't as bad as you'd think for an 18-year-old, mostly because he had family on the inside. His cousins were actually serving life sentences in the same place. That, plus the fact that his 2-year stretch was nothing compared to what a lot of the other inmates were dealing with, probably made him feel kind of lucky. While some of them were never going to see the outside world again, at least he had a release date to look forward to. And sure enough, on July 1st, 2016, Lil Baby finally got out and moved back in with his mom in Atlanta. By the time Baby got home, everything had changed. A lot of his old friends, people like Marlo and Young Thug, had already started rapping and were actually making names for themselves. It was cool and all, but Lil Baby wasn't really interested in the rap game at that point. He was just ready to get back to hustling.
I never would have took rap serious if nobody went like, Baby fell off or Baby this, because I never really took it serious. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't put my all in music yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Word about his plans started spreading, and some big names like PRP and Coach K from Quality Control, and even Young Thug, urged him to reconsider. They kept telling him he should try music instead of going back to the streets. He thought about it, but didn't actually do anything, until Young Thug stepped in and paid for his very first studio session. And that's when everything changed. That one studio session with Young Thug ended up changing Lil Baby's life in ways he probably never imagined, setting him on a path that would take him from the streets to the studio and straight into the spotlight.
I used to pay this goddamn, stay out of this to have my money. Just relax.
I never really wanted to be a rapper. My first time ever going to the studio, the next day I got great reviews, so I'm like, I'm rapping. I go to the studio, I make a little song, but I put the little clip on my Instagram. When I put it on my Instagram, Gucci Man come under there like, I'ma sign him. And Thug was like, well, he already signed me. And from then on, I just started like every day.
Once he got a taste of music, there was no looking back. He practically lived in the studio, recording non-stop until he was finally ready to drop his very first project, Perfect Timing, which featured some big names like Lil Yachty, Gunna, and of course, Young Thug himself.
She want the brick, go get it. She want this Gucci, she get it. She want this Louis, go get it.
The project immediately created a buzz, not just because the music was solid, but because people quickly realized that Lil Baby had officially joined forces with Quality Control, one of the hottest labels in the game. With all this new attention coming his way, he wasted no time and dropped his debut album Harder Than Ever, which ended up being the project that really put him on the map. Two of the songs on the album, My Dog and Freestyle, blew up online, going viral and turning Lil Baby into one of the most talked about new rappers in the industry. His rising fame didn't just allow him to drop hits with his Quality Control crew, it also opened the door for collaborations with some of the biggest artists in the game, including Drake. In fact, their song Yes Indeed turned out to be a massive success, going triple platinum and peaking at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. Around the same time, Gunna, who had been featured on Lil Baby's first project, was also starting to see major mainstream success, and before long the two of them decided to team up for a full-length collab album called Drip Harder. The project was a massive hit, with the lead single Drip Too Hard reaching number 4 on the Billboard charts and eventually going platinum 5 times. Just as Lil Baby's career was hitting new heights, trouble wasn't too far behind. On February 7th, 2019, at around 6 p.m., he was cruising through Georgia in his signature orange Corvette when a state trooper noticed him switching lanes without signaling. What started as a simple traffic violation quickly escalated. Rather than pulling over right away, Lil Baby decided to hit the gas, weaving through traffic and speeding up in what seemed like an attempt to lose the officer. But of course, that plan didn't exactly work out, and before long the trooper managed to catch up and pull him over. What should have been a minor stop turned into something much bigger, with Lil Baby getting arrested on multiple charges, including failure to signal, reckless driving, and attempting to flee from police. He was taken into custody and booked into Fulton County Jail, but he didn't stay there for long. He posted bail later that night and walked free, though the exact amount he had to pay was never made public. Since then, no major updates about the case have surfaced until now, and realistically it's likely that Lil Baby just had to pay a fine or maybe take some kind of traffic safety class to put the whole thing behind him. In the grand scheme of things, this arrest wasn't anything too serious compared to his recent. For a while, it seemed like he had truly moved on from his old ways. He always claimed that he never wanted to go back to prison, and he proved to the world that he wasn't just a talented rapper. He was also one of the hardest working artists in the game. With the right people around him, including some of the biggest names in the industry, he put everything he had into his music and turned himself into one of the biggest names in hip-hop. But with everything going on right now, it looks like this time Lil Baby won't be getting off so easily. If these recent allegations hold any weight, he could be facing his longest prison sentence yet, bringing his rise to fame to an unexpected and devastating halt.